What would happen if Earth's gravity increased suddenly? You wake up with a strange feeling. Your body is heavy, very heavy. Trying to get out of bed takes insane effort. Your muscles tremble, your bones feel like they're about to give way. The air becomes suffocating, as if something invisible is pressing down on every cell in your body. You look around and realize something is terribly wrong. Outside, the streets are chaos. People try to run but fall to the ground, crushed by their own weight. Cars are stopped, their structures deformed by the pressure. Buildings crumble like sandcastles, unable to withstand the new force that dominates the planet. The once familiar sky now seems strange, distorted by forces no one can understand. This sounds like fiction, but what if I told you that there are scenarios in which gravity could actually change in a catastrophic way? What could cause such a devastating phenomenon? Is the Earth prepared to withstand this? And most importantly, could you survive? Hope until we see the real consequences of this scenario. What science has to say about this may be even scarier than you imagine. Gravity is the invisible force that defines everything we know. Without it, the Earth would not have a spherical shape, the oceans would not exist as they are, and even time and space would behave differently. Gravity keeps the planets in orbit, prevents the atmosphere from dispersing into a vacuum, and regulates the Earth's inner workings. But, despite being essential, few people realize its true influence on everyday life. Every step you take is the result of the perfect balance between the strength of your muscles and the Earth's gravitational pull. Your heart pumps blood against this force all the time. Planes and rockets can only rise because we calculate precisely how to overcome this resistance. If an object falls from a specific height, we know exactly how long it will take to hit the ground, because gravity always acts the same way. Now imagine that this force was multiplied by 10. Everything that seemed normal would become unsustainable. The weight of each object would increase drastically. A cell phone that weighs 200 grams would weigh 2 kilos. An ordinary car would weigh the same as a truck. Entire buildings would experience extreme pressure, and structures that were designed to withstand the current environment would begin to fail. But this is still a small problem compared to what would happen to the human body itself. Muscles, bones, and organs were not made to withstand a sudden increase in gravity. Every cell in the body would feel this change instantly. Lifting an arm would be as exhausting as carrying a bag of cement. Blood circulation would slow down, and the heart would have to make an enormous effort to pump oxygen to the brain. The result? A constant state of exhaustion, as if every movement was a battle against an overwhelming invisible force. The impact on breathing would be immediate. The lungs would need to expand against much greater pressure, making each breath more difficult. The simple act of speaking would require effort, and the lack of oxygen would cause dizziness, nausea, and frequent fainting. For those who already have heart or respiratory problems, survival would become almost impossible. If you think that sounds bad enough, wait until you find out how extreme gravity would affect the body's bones. The human skeletal structure is designed to handle current strength, but if that strength were to increase tenfold, bone fragility would become an imminent risk. The weight of the limbs themselves could cause spontaneous fractures. The spine, which supports the entire body, would suffer accelerated wear, resulting in chronic pain and severe movement limitations. But what about in the long term? If gravity remained high, could future generations evolve to adapt? Could the human body change to resist this new reality? Some scientists suggest that in an environment of extreme gravity, humans could develop denser muscles and strengthened bones, similar to those of some animal species that live under high gravitational pressure. However, this adaptation would take millions of years to happen, and until then, the consequences would be catastrophic. Now stop for a moment and imagine if gravity really suddenly increased, what would you do? Do you think humanity would have any chance of adapting, or would collapse be inevitable? Think about the challenges. How do you survive in a world where every step can be exhausting, where buildings collapse under their own weight, and where even breathing becomes a difficult task? Could technology save us, or would we be condemned to a relentless new reality? I want to know your opinion. If Earth's gravity were 10 times stronger, do you believe humanity would find a solution to survive, or would we be facing our own end? Comment your theory below and let's debate this extreme scenario. If Earth's gravity were to suddenly increase, the human body would face slow and inevitable destruction. Every part of the organism would feel the impact of this invisible force, but nothing would suffer as much as the internal systems responsible for mobility, circulation, and breathing. The muscles, for example, would not only have difficulty supporting the new weight of the body, but would also go through a process of accelerated degeneration. Muscles are designed to operate within a specific resistance range. With such an extreme increase in severity, even the most resistant fibers would begin to suffer constant micro-injuries, leading to chronic inflammation and muscle fatigue that never goes away. The heart, in turn, would be forced to work uncontrollably. Denser blood requiring more intense contractions would result in extreme hypertension and an increased risk of aneurysms. Blood vessels could not withstand the additional pressure, leading to an alarming rate of strokes and heart failure. Bones, in addition to supporting body weight, have a vital function, producing blood cells. But under devastating severity, the bone marrow could become unable to generate new cells at the necessary rate, causing serious illnesses such as severe anemia. This means that, in addition to the structural wear and tear on the bones, the body's vital functions would also collapse. Breathing, although it seems like a simple process, would also be seriously compromised. The additional weight of the rib cage itself would make it difficult to expand the lungs, making each breath a challenge. Furthermore, higher atmospheric pressure would affect the balance of gases in the blood, leading to symptoms such as constant headaches, mental confusion, and even fainting. The brain itself would suffer direct consequences, as blood circulation would be slower and more irregular. Oxygenation of the nervous system would be reduced. The result? Loss of reflexes, slower reasoning, and a constant state of mental exhaustion. Over time, humanity could enter a cycle of cognitive deterioration, where even the most basic functions of thinking begin to fail. Now imagine living in that state for years. Could human adaptive capacity find a path to survival? Or would we be trapped in bodies that would slowly lose their functions? Now think about this. What is real and what is just an illusion of normality? We believe that gravity is an immutable constant. But what if this certainty is just a passing comfort? Our existence depends on a balance so delicate that any change can transform the world we know into an irreversible nightmare. The truth is that the more people have access to this type of knowledge, the more we are able to question what we are told is absolute. The like you leave here is not just a click, but a sign that these mysteries need to be explored, discussed, and revealed to more people. This is how this content grows stronger and continues to reach those who also feel that the universe hides answers that we still don't fully understand. What if I told you that this change in gravity could trigger something even more dangerous? The human body may fail, but the real catastrophe happens when the world around us begins to fall apart. Structures designed to withstand centuries would collapse in minutes. Bridges, buildings, roads. Nothing was done to resist the weight of this new planet. And once the concrete starts to give way, there's no turning back. Humanity's infrastructure has always depended on an invisible balance. Precise calculations, reinforced foundations, and resistant materials were designed for a world where gravity has always been a constant. But what if this principle were destroyed? Skyscrapers, which have defied gravity for decades, would be the first to succumb. Steel and concrete, which once seemed unbreakable, would now crack under crushing weight. Enhanced gravity would turn every upper floor into an unsustainable burden. The skyline of large cities would disappear in a matter of hours. Bridges and highways, designed to support specific loads, would collapse one after another. The impact would be felt devastatingly across global transportation. Trucks, trains, and planes would become useless, and the movement of essential supplies would collapse. The world would no longer be connected. But what about underground cities, subways, and tunnels? If urban surfaces were already condemned, systems below ground would become death traps. The weight of the new gravity would push tons of soil and concrete into these structures, burying anything below the surface. Not only would the great metropolises collapse, they would be swallowed by the planet itself. The collapse of cities is not just an architectural problem. The collapse of infrastructure would mean the collapse of society as a whole. Databases that store the world's information would become inaccessible. Communication networks would break down. Governments would lose the ability to coordinate emergency actions. No transport, no communication, and no order. The world would plunge into absolute chaos. Have you ever felt that strange discomfort before a storm? The air becomes heavy, the sky darkens, and a silent tension seems to spread throughout the room. Now imagine that feeling multiplied tenfold, not because of a simple storm, but because the planet itself is reacting to a force that should never exist. If gravity increased like this, the oceans wouldn't just be victims, they'd become Earth's greatest weapons. And what would come next would forever change the natural balance of the planet. Gravity doesn't just affect what's on land, it shapes the behavior of the oceans and atmosphere in profound and unpredictable ways. If Earth's gravitational pull increased 10 times, the oceans would become a permanent threat. The water level would rise drastically. Under extreme gravitational pressure, ocean water would become denser and incredibly heavy. Ocean currents, which today are shaped by the rotation of the Earth and the gravitational pull of the Moon, would be distorted to a point where the movement of the tides would become unpredictable and violent. Colossal waves, hundreds of meters, would rise from the oceans and crash against the coasts with unprecedented force. Tsunamis, which today are triggered by underwater earthquakes and tectonic plate shifts, would become common events. With gravity exerting constant pressure on the seabed, the simple movement of tides could trigger an underwater geological collapse. Underwater volcanic eruptions, they would release heat and toxic gases, making the water corrosive and creating dead zones where no life form could survive. Weather patterns would collapse. Atmospheric pressure at sea level would increase dramatically, making it difficult for air masses to circulate. Hurricanes and tropical storms would become constant, fueled by accumulated heat in the oceans and accelerated condensation. Wind, speeds of hundreds of kilometers per hour, would become common, destroying what remained on dry land. Greater water density would make marine life unsustainable. Species adapted to shallow waters would be the first to disappear, unable to deal with the new ocean pressure. Deep-sea organisms, which today survive in extreme conditions, would have a temporary advantage, but the chemical imbalance caused by increased gravity would eventually eliminate them as well. The oxygen dissolved in the water would decrease drastically, causing a mass extinction in the oceans. While some regions would be destroyed by waves and storms, others would face the opposite effect: permanent drought. Tropical zones could turn into deserts in a matter of months. Regions that today have dense forests could become arid, with the soil cracked due to lack of moisture. The Amazon, the swamps of Asia, and the forests of Africa could disappear, taking with them species that currently only exist in these ecosystems. What about the melting of the polar ice caps? Under the combined effect of excessive heat and increased gravitational pressure, glaciers would fragment and slide into the sea, causing a rapid and irreversible rise in ocean levels. Island countries would disappear from the map in a matter of days. Coastal cities would be swallowed up, forcing millions of people to migrate in search of higher land, if there were any safe places left to go. Now I want to know what you think about this. If the oceans truly turned into an uncontrollable destructive force, do you believe humanity would be able to find a way to adapt? Or would we be facing an inevitable cycle of extinction? What about extreme climate change? Do you think some regions could become safe havens, or the entire planet would become hostile territory? Leave your theory in the comments. I want to know how far you think the impact of gravity could take us. But the effects of this change would not be limited to the oceans and climate. If gravity were out of control, the Earth's surface itself would begin to react in ways no one could predict. Mountains, valleys, and even the ground beneath our feet could warp and collapse in the face of this relentless force. And what would happen to the physical world around us could be even scarier than anything we've seen so far. Earth's surface has always been in motion, driven by the tectonic forces that have shaped continents and oceans over millions of years. But if Earth's gravity increased 10 times, this natural process would turn into an unprecedented cycle of destruction. Under extreme gravitational pressure, the Earth's crust would begin to give way. Tectonic plates, which today move at an almost imperceptible pace, would be forced to collide violently. Fault lines that had remained stable for millennia would collapse, triggering earthquakes on a global scale. Immense fissures, kilometers deep, could open in a matter of minutes, swallowing entire cities and critical infrastructure networks. Mountains, which took millions of years to form, would be compressed under the weight of the crust itself. Higher mountain ranges, such as the Himalayas, could be flattened, while new elevations would emerge chaotically in areas of high seismic activity. The planet's relief would completely change, with old landscapes being destroyed and new geographical features appearing in a matter of weeks. The movement of tectonic plates would also force the release of magma at levels never seen before. Mass volcanic eruptions would occur across the planet, with lava being expelled hundreds of meters into the air. The additional pressure on the Earth's interior would force the magma to seek new escape routes, forming volcanic chains in places previously considered stable. Volcanic eruptions would not only destroy entire regions, but also release tons of ash and gases into the atmosphere. Sunlight would be blocked in many parts of the world, creating a scenario of constant darkness and falling temperatures. But the biggest problem would be in the chemical composition of the atmosphere. The gases released by these eruptions would alter the chemical balance of the air, making breathing increasingly difficult and causing long-term toxic effects on human health. The Earth's soil would also undergo radical changes. The new gravitational pressure would compact the ground, making it rigid and impenetrable. The infiltration capacity of water would be severely reduced, which would make agriculture practically impossible. Entire plantations would stop growing, and complex ecosystems such as tropical forests would collapse due to lack of nutrients and increasing soil density. In coastal regions and plains, the additional weight of the Earth's crust could trigger the phenomenon of subsidence, when the ground sinks under its own weight. Entire cities located in river deltas or low-lying areas could simply sink, being slowly swallowed by the planet itself and the poles. Pressure on the ice in Antarctica and the Arctic would cause rapid deformation of the ice sheets, triggering large-scale cracks and breaks. The accelerated melting of these ice masses would alter the planet's gravitational balance, shifting the axis of rotation and altering tidal dynamics on a global scale. The Earth's surface, which has been slowly evolving for millions of years under the action of plate tectonics, would be destroyed and reformed in a matter of months. But as the crust collapses and the relief changes, something even scarier may be happening beneath the surface. The Earth's core is the gravitational and energetic heart of the planet, responsible for generating the magnetic field that protects us from solar radiation and regulates tectonic activity. If gravity increased 10 times, this internal balance would be irreversibly destroyed. Under brutal gravitational pressure, the inner core, composed of iron and nickel, would undergo extreme compression, raising internal temperatures to critical levels. The heat generated would cause the outer core to convulse, creating violent convective currents that could destabilize or even collapse the Earth's magnetic field. Without this protection, the solar wind would directly hit the atmosphere, destroying the ozone layer and exposing the planet to deadly radiation. The extra heat transferred to the Earth's mantle would intensify the movement of tectonic plates, generating volcanism on a planetary scale. Supervolcanoes would erupt en masse, releasing toxic gases and triggering an initial volcanic winter. But the accumulation of carbon dioxide and water vapor in the atmosphere would end up creating a runaway greenhouse effect, raising temperatures above average temperatures, 400 OC, and evaporating the oceans. Earth could become a toxic desert, similar to Venus. The inner core would continue to compress, potentially reaching a critical point of crystallization. If that happened, the magnetic field would disappear for good, leaving the planet vulnerable to cosmic radiation and turning Earth into an arid rock, similar to Mars. Furthermore, the gravitational impact could affect the Earth's rotation, causing oscillations in the axis and drastic changes in the seasons. Now I want to hear from you. If the Earth's core collapsed, what do you think would happen to the rest of the solar system? Could altered gravity change the moon's orbit, or even pull neighboring planets into Earth? And more. Have you ever thought of some crazy theory about the universe that no one dares to discuss? Comment below your most insane hypothesis about the cosmos. The most intriguing ideas could even become a future video here on the channel. I want to see how far your mind can go. But what if this internal transformation was just the beginning? What if the core collapse not only destroyed the planet, but triggered a gravitational effect so strong that it began to distort the very structure of the solar system? The moon could be pulled towards the Earth, entire planets could fall out of orbit, and even the sun could feel the impact of this change. There is a real possibility that this event will trigger something that science has never been able to predict, a cosmic chain reaction that could rewrite the laws of physics as we know it. If you think you've seen the worst, wait until you find out how this transformation could affect not only Earth, but the entire gravitational balance of the universe. You are not prepared for what comes next. Earth is part of a delicate gravitational balance that keeps the solar system stable. If its gravity increased 10 times, this balance would be destroyed, triggering a cosmic domino effect with unpredictable consequences. The moon would be the first celestial body to feel the impact of this transformation. With Earth's gravity intensified, the moon could be pulled into a closer orbit, becoming unstable. This imbalance could cause lunar eruptions and catastrophic tides on Earth, flooding entire cities. Mars and Venus, our closest neighbors, would also be affected. Earth's new gravitational pull could distort their orbits, bringing Mars dangerously close to Earth, increasing the risk of planetary collisions and altering the orbital cycle of both planets. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter would suffer strong interference. Earth's gravitational force could displace rocky fragments from their original orbits, launching asteroids towards the planet. Earth could become a constant target of catastrophic impacts, generating gigantic craters and triggering global effects. Jupiter and Saturn, which currently stabilize the solar system with their gravitational forces, could also become unbalanced. Earth's new gravitational force could generate fluctuations in the orbits of these gas giants, even affecting the position of Uranus and Neptune and causing large-scale gravitational disorder. What about the Sun? Although its mass is much greater than that of Earth, an increase in Earth's gravitational force could intensify solar storms and coronal mass explosions, releasing enough radiation to directly affect Earth, destroying electrical grids and communication systems. In an extreme scenario, the solar system's orbital alignment could be permanently altered, planets could be expelled from their orbits, the Earth could be pushed closer or further from the Sun, generating lethal temperatures. Gravitational instability could even attract interstellar objects, increasing the risk of devastating collisions with comets and asteroids. If the solar system is held in balance by an invisible thread of gravity, this transformation could tear it apart forever. Would humanity have enough technology or knowledge to prevent a cosmic event of this magnitude? Or would we be doomed to watch the solar system fall apart before our eyes? If Earth's gravity increased 10 times, humanity would face the greatest challenge in history: adapt or abandon the planet. Adaptation would require an unprecedented technological leap. Scientists would have to develop advanced body support technologies to withstand extreme pressure. Instead of simple exoskeletons, suits reinforced with next-generation materials could be designed to alleviate the impact of gravity on bones and muscles. Furthermore, genetic modifications could be necessary to allow the human body to develop greater bone density and muscle strength. But the adaptation would not be limited to the human body. Agriculture, which would collapse under gravitational pressure, would have to be transferred to controlled environments. Vertical farms in underground facilities with hydroponic systems and artificial lighting could be the only way to produce food on a large scale. Water and oxygen supplies would also depend on advanced recycling systems, similar to those used on space missions. The atmosphere, without a stable magnetic field, would continue to be destroyed by the solar wind. To get around this, scientists could develop artificial electromagnetic shields, a network of satellites equipped with magnetic field generators that would protect the planet from cosmic radiation and the effects of the solar wind. But what if adaptation on Earth wasn't enough? Humanity could be forced to abandon the planet in search of a new home. Mars would be the most viable destination, but surviving there would require a self-sufficient infrastructure, with pressurization systems, growing food in sterile soil and protection against cosmic radiation. A more ambitious alternative would be to colonize moons like Titan on Saturn, which has a dense atmosphere and large deposits of hydrocarbons. However, reaching Titan would require the development of long-range interplanetary ships equipped with advanced propulsion systems and cosmic radiation shields. This type of technology is still purely theoretical, and the time needed to develop it may not exist in the face of a gravitational event of this magnitude. Another possibility would be to create space colonies in Earth orbit or at strategic points in the solar system. These gigantic structures would need to be designed to withstand constant artificial gravity, with pressurized environments and water, air, and food recycling systems. Humanity could become a nomadic species, living on space stations and migrating between star systems in search of stability. However, there is an even more disturbing question. What if gravitational collapse was not an isolated event? If Earth's increased gravity triggered a chain gravitational effect, it might be too late to escape. If the entire solar system started to fall apart, no spacecraft or technology would be able to save us. You've just discovered something that few people even thought possible. This apocalyptic scenario may be closer to reality than we think, and this information cannot be left to you alone. Send this video now to that friend who loves mysteries of the universe and who loves exploring the limits of science. Let's spread this discussion and bring more curious minds to try to unravel this cosmic enigma. Who knows, maybe one of these minds will discover the key to our survival. The truth is that faced with a scenario of this magnitude, humanity could be doomed to extinction. But would science be able to find an unexpected solution? Or would this be the inevitable end of human civilization as we know it? Are we prepared to discover the true limit of survival? Gravity is the invisible thread that keeps the universe in balance. Every planetary orbit, every star, every galaxy, everything is governed by this silent, constant force. But what if this constant were changed? What you've just seen is a glimpse of the chaos that could ensue if this balance were disrupted. Gravitational collapse wouldn't just destroy Earth, it could reshape the very fabric of the cosmos. The idea that gravity could change so drastically may seem impossible, but can it really? Could unknown cosmic forces influence Earth's gravitational field? And most importantly, does NASA already know something it's not telling us? The truth is that science still doesn't have all the answers, but that's exactly what makes the universe so fascinating. Every unanswered question is an invitation to go deeper, to explore the unknown and try to unlock the hidden secrets of the cosmos. Now tell me, do you believe that gravity is really an immutable constant, or are unknown forces already acting behind the scenes in the universe? And if the gravity we feel today is no longer the same as it was millennia ago, has this change already begun without us even realizing it? And more, if you were faced with an event like this, what would you do to survive? Would you try to adapt to the new reality, or would you seek to escape to another planet? I want to know what you think about this. Leave your most insane theory here in the comments. And if you like exploring the darkest and most fascinating mysteries of the universe, you are in the right place. Being a part of this is more than just watching videos, is to embark on a journey through theories and discoveries that challenge everything we know about reality. Each theory, each discovery, takes you beyond what the eyes can see. If you want to continue on this journey, sign up now, and what you just saw, it's just the beginning. The next video reveals something even more intriguing, a theory that could completely challenge our understanding of the cosmos. Are you ready to find out what comes next? So click now and continue this unlimited exploration.